guys. Welcome to Breaking Through Addiction. My name is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor. Good to be with you this morning, guys. With me, as usual, is my co-host, Jennifer Lovely. Jennifer, how are you this morning?
Well, good morning. I'm doing good. It's another beautiful day. We woke up on the good side of the grass this morning.
We did, and that's all that matters. Guys, Breaking Through Addiction, 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning is going to change to 7 p.m. on a Wednesday evening. Speaking to the Heart Network, STT Media, and Phoenix Radio will be bringing you the show live on Wednesday evening at 7, and also on over 65 platforms. So you can hear us anywhere from iHeartRadio to iTunes. We're on every podcast platform available. So there you go. Don't forget, next week, 7 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday evening will be the show time. So what's new, Jen? Anything? Tell me something I don't already know.
Something you don't already know?
Apart from what you told me before.
We won't talk about that now.
No.
Well, I leave on Sunday. This is kind of cool. My girlfriend, whose husband just passed away, when I asked her, how does she want me to support her? She said, I want you to come back after everybody's gone and support me in grieving.
Wow.
And she just shared with me that she said, you know, you're one of these people that help me breathe. And I was really touched and honored to be that for her. So I'm doing that on Sunday. So looking forward to being down in Southern California again. That's what I know today. Life is good.
Yes, it is. And visiting Texas shortly, I hope.
Yes.
Gonna have Jen. Hey, listen, we might do a show side by side in the coming weeks. And I think that's what we're going to do. Guys, we have an amazing guest on the show today. Steven Enriquez is an old friend of mine that I didn't know I had an old friend of mine, because we just started talking probably about a week and a half ago. We got connected from, you all know Courtney D. She's our media person. She goes out there and she trolls the internet for guests. And she found Steven, and we got connected, and we're talking away, and I just love this guy. I just have this man crush on this guy, because this guy has got a heart like mine, you know. And when I see him dressed and everything, it's like, oh God, he's amazing. And then I got looking at my Facebook the other day, and he's been on there for years and years, and it's just I didn't know it was this amazing guy. So Steven will be on in a second, but you have to remember, guys, that this is Wednesday. You remember looking at photographs years and years ago, and you get the photograph out and you go, look at those days. Those were the days. Oh my God, those were the days. Guys, today could be one of those days. Today could be the day when you can look back in 10 years' time and go, today, that crazy English guy and that lovely Jennifer Lovely, is that right? Yeah. Said that today was the day, and today is going to be the day. So stick around. 15 seconds, we'll be back with Steven Enriquez. This guy is amazing. It's going to be a fantastic show. Good morning, guys. Again, if you just joined us, this is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, Breaking Through Addiction, brought to you by Speaking to the Heart Network, STT Media, and Phoenix Radio. Steven's in the house. Good morning, Steven.
Good morning, Doc. Good morning.
How are you? How are you today?
Morning. It's so good to see you.
It's in.
Even though you're on my Facebook too, and we're Facebook friends, this is the first time we've ever met.
It's my pleasure.
Yes.
Guys, for those who don't know that, Steven is an executive recovery coach. It's parallaxsolutions.com if you want to visit. We're going to put the website up in a second for you. And Jennifer's going to ask the first question, Steven. So fasten your seatbelt. Here we go.
So executive recovery coach, do you make those CEOs, do you help them stay sober, emotionally sober then?
Well, you know, in the beginning, it was going and speaking with people who were in New York City who had 9-to-5 jobs, which really meant 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. jobs, and had to actually manipulate and curb the schedule according to their times.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have the free time to be able to say, yes, I can meet you from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day of the week. So it kind of just segued and built into that background of the executives who do have the jobs and then the family and then the home and lots of external activities that have them busy. So I would have to coordinate and make it according to their schedule, which is really apropos in this environment.
Definitely. Definitely. Dr. Rob?
Yeah, I wanted to know now with us, I know for a fact that whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's cake, whether it's sex, whether it's gym, it makes no difference. It's de minimis. It's the behavior behind those addictions. So if addiction is the symptom, what's the real problem? So Stephen, talk to us from your experience about the behavior around any sort of addiction.
Well, I'd like to introduce me into a conversation when I work with clients, which is a little bit different than your typical PhD doctor, where they're going to be having quite a distance. And so incorporating my own history, where I can say, look, I know I've stopped drinking for 30 days because I went to residential treatment. And I liked it so much, I went to either 5 or 6 of them. I can't actually recall. But I came back home to the same apartment, the same job on Wall Street, the same relationship with my ex-wife, the same relationship around me. And things did not particularly change. And even the foods that I ate, even the activities, whether it was golfing, whether it was looking at the Sunday paper all weekend, those behaviors were conditioned in me. And there was no reason not to think that eventually having another glass of wine or having another glass of scotch, which turned into bottles, was going to change because my behavior wasn't changing. And for the 30 days inside of a residential bubble, it was a fantastic vacation. But coming out, not having resources, there was not any reality of me actually changing my behavior because I had been conditioning myself to do that since I was basically legal to drink.
You know, I think it's interesting. Dr. Rob and I talk a lot about we're inner addicts before we're outer addicts, before the substance abuse happens. And so there's the behavior that's inside of us. And we talk about when we send, like for me, I sent my kids away to go, save them, get them the help. And had I not done the work personally on my own addictions and my own issues, we would be speaking 2 different languages. And then thus becomes that they're speaking Japanese and I'm speaking German, and then becomes the separation again, and then the behavior. So how do you support people in that?
Well, I look at and I love that you bring up, for me, communication is almost as important as behavior, because what is going to change? And it's not, the behavior can't change until there's thought that changes. And the inner language that I have with myself and the thinking that I have with myself needs to be altered, needs to be helped, needs to be nurtured, because for 40 years I was conditioned, not just externally, but by myself, to think of me in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And if I weren't good enough to do something, then I would be able to circumvent it and manipulate it to convince myself otherwise. But then I would also have the crutch of whether it was alcohol or even more exotic things to be able to say, you know what? No, I am worth that. And I am worth the best scotch in the world. But before I get there, and now that I've gone through treatment, and now that communication, I was never speaking properly to my ex-wife, to the building manager, to my employers, where I am trying to say something. You look at the word addiction, and part of it is diction. So what am I actually trying to communicate by drinking half of the Atlantic Ocean? I didn't know. All I knew is that I was hurting, but the only thing that was helping numb the situation was alcohol for me. And with clients, I have to figure out what it is they're trying to numb before we can say, you know what, this is maybe an avenue that we can talk about pursuing, because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So what if somebody comes to you and they said, hey, this is the deal with me. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is. I kind of drink too much. I eat too much. I spend too much time at the gym. What kind of behavior traits are you looking for when somebody comes to you?
I'm looking for the primary, what leads them up to, I'm going to have a drink. Because if you look at how we modify it, I deserve a drink. I deserve a drink because I got a promotion. I deserve a drink because I got fired. I deserve a drink because I got engaged or I got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Or my kid just graduated 2nd grade and there's a terrific looking single woman there that I need to talk to, but I need the liquid courage to go up there and talk to her first.
Yeah.
So what rationale is the person using to get to that point? And I don't look at it from, okay, your 12 o'clock lunch, you're going to have a martini. I don't want to know that. I want to know what led up to that in the coming weeks or years or months, where you have now conditioned yourself and your behavior to say, this is what I'm going to do. And with a little bit of shift, I just wanted to say, what happens if you don't have that martini at lunch? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they freeze because they actually have to paint that picture, which allows me to help them paint a different picture about themselves without the martini every day. And I'm not going to tell you that it's wrong for you to drink. What I'm going to show is that the behavior is not going to change. Your actions won't change until there's a thought change. And if I can do something just a little bit different, then that's the beginning. That's a start. If I have a chicken Caesar salad every day for lunch, and the next day I decide not to have the chicken part of it, it's not necessarily going to be dangerous. It's going to be different, and it's probably going to be uncomfortable. But the point is to make slow progress of little changes that you can practice, where they now become the alternative choices become primary choices. So I can choose 4 or 5 different lunches without having the martini. The martini now is the 6th choice instead of the 1st choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm curious, what do you like overall in your years of experience? What is the behavior? What is the thought? What is the thing before I ordered the martini?
I think clinically speaking that I feel like a piece of shit, and therefore I'm going to do more harm. And even though I never consciously say I'm going to harm myself, I know that the frontal lobe, the intellect will say, this is not good for you. And in the back of the brain, the emotional side, the caveman says, I don't care. I'm used to it. And keep it going. I have muscle memory to this, and I am chiseled. And I'm going to keep that chisel because I'm too afraid to do anything else because I don't know what else to do. And, you know, going through 5 or 6 treatment centers was terrific in those 30 days. But what do you do afterward when you don't have somebody to guide you every day or be available every day? And I think that's what, you know, Dr. Rob is there for. And that's what I try to be there for when a client can call me at 11 o'clock at night and say, you know what, I'm struggling. I don't work with people who say, you know what, I want a once a week for 45 minutes and I expect to have everything changed in that time. Those aren't the people that we work with. We work with the higher acuity of people who are in trouble and that they need help right now. And if they need to be able to call me in the middle of dinner, or if I need to drive 4 hours to help them out, that's what's going to happen because I know what they're going through and I've been there, whether it's exact or congruent. And showing that kind of support is going to allow them to believe that there is a chance. And if we can keep conditioning them to show, instead of the reflex of having your right arm flex, let's try the left arm. Because now we need to build an entirely new muscle rather than relying on that huge, super pumped up that I've been doing for 25 years.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. It's like, I want to come on a Wednesday at 3:00 because that's when I'm going to tell you about all my problems. But what if the problems hit 11 o'clock on a Monday night? What am I going to do? I'm going to write them down. I'm going to wait to see my counselor, Jimmy, and hope everything's okay. And that's one of the things I like about your stuff, Stephen, is it's kind of molded to the client. There's no cookie cutter. Well, when I work, my psychotherapist, I can call her tomorrow and go, hey, on the 31st of December, what will you be doing? And she'll go, hang on a sec. Oh, yeah, it's this page here. And although I think sometimes that's effective, for me, I can't tell you what I'm doing when I'm sat in front of somebody. I have a patient at 2:00 today. I have no idea what we're going to talk about because I've got to see what they come to me with. And what they come to me with will be addressed there and then we can go forwad. Guys, Stephen C. Henriques is on the show. This is an amazing conversation. Stick around. Quick word from our sponsor. Welcome back, guys. If you just joined us, this is Breaking Through Addiction. My name is Dr. Rob Kelly, the Addiction Doctor, along with Jennifer Lovely, and our guest, Stephen, is today. We're just talking about behavior, guys. Can you put a time frame on behavior, Stephen? Or is that just how long's a piece of string?
Well, it's a good question, and it depends on what I define as my behavior and what I look at as good behavior. Am I going to be the model citizen? No, I don't even know what that means. And if I can make sure that I don't care so much what the outside opinion and the noise and the conditioning is from media, newspapers, the books I read, then I just want to make sure that the level of who I want to be can be attainable rather than just something that is in the clouds. But if I can be able to change a little bit now, just right now, what's my takeaway in order for me to work on for the next couple of days before I see you and have that conversation with you, and being able to be honest with myself, where I say, you know what, I have done certain things and not everything I'm proud of, and at the same time not continue to beat myself up about it, because the addiction part, which will be the doing something continuously, why it takes the primary out of my life, and then I blow off work and I blow off the family and blow off the kids and even blow off playing golf. Those parts of it are the detriment to me. So if I can slowly take one piece at a time, which by working with a psychiatrist and a coach, I could figure out and ask the question, where do you think I need to go right now? And this is where I have my own therapist, where I can communicate, and not just ethically and legally that I need one, but I need a nice sounding board to say, you know what, I got this conversation with this British guy coming up, and I don't know, what do you think I should do it? I don't know. But and all the jocularity aside, the timing is what I put into it, and it's what he or she puts into it. And you can even do it whether it's not necessarily going to be, I need to write down for 4 hours to do work, and that'll make me better. That'll be mentally and emotionally better. I put on this morning, I was looking for a classical music piece, a piano concerto number 2. And it was Franz Liszt. And yet another one came up, and I said, you know what? I don't remember that one. And I played it. And I said, you know what? This is quite lovely. And the expectation was to find the other one. And unfortunately, too many people, including myself, get disappointed with the expectation that didn't come up that we thought was going to come up, which allows me to go back and pick up and use again. It's not going to happen with us. We can't let that happen because I've been there. And even if I had a drink today, that could be 6 months of living hell if I survive it. So the time frame is not necessarily going to be tomorrow or in 3 weeks or in 6 months. It's what can I do for myself at this moment right now to relieve a little bit of that internal pressure that I'm putting on myself. And that's where you get the external support, whether it's Dr. Rob Kelly, whether it's Dr. Stephen Henriquez, and whether it's Jennifer. We use what we have at our means in a positive way, and we stop that negative activity.
Yeah, and there's a level of personal responsibility that comes from, and also a maturity in our disease that comes from exactly what you're speaking of. And then there's the people that have no idea what that personal responsibility is. They don't even know where to begin. Even if you're running a large company, right, or the United States for that matter, like there's a level of lacking in that. How do you get somebody to? I mean, I think that rigorous honesty gets us to personal responsibility. But I'm curious, how do you walk somebody through that?
Well, and sometimes I'll have a terrific answer for that, and I don't know until I meet the person.
Yeah.
And find out a little bit more about him or her, and just how their physical actions are, and how their self-esteem is, just by posture and just by communicating with me. And one of the things I love to do is I bring hula hoops for both of us. And to see their reaction to the hula hoop will tell me a lot. And just how they communicate to me. And someone will say, what the hell is that for? I'm not doing anything like that. And I will say, just hold on a second. It's not going to be painful. And so we put the hula hoop around myself. He or she puts it around herself. And I talk to them. And all of a sudden, they forget they're wearing a hula hoop. And then they say, well, what the hell is this for? And I said, it's about boundaries. So whatever I'm going to let inside my hula hoop is now my responsibility. And everything else is white noise. It's the keeping up with the Joneses or the Kardashians, or listening to CNN or Fox for 15 hours a day. That kind of influence, I don't need that chaos. I have enough chaos inside of me. Yeah. And all of those are wonderful distractions in order for me to then rationalize picking up a drink or doing a bump or buying a needle or buying a bag. Right. If I can get rid of that noise, then I have more room for me to work with Dr. Rob on.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. You said a couple of things that's kind of blown my mind. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So, Stephen, in your opinion, can we change behavior permanently from self-sabotage to good behavior?
I think at the beginning, there's going to be a level of transition where we need to be able to remind ourselves. I need to be able to remind myself that, historically, I used to do this. And now, if I can just remember that one little piece that will give me a completely different perspective, and it's almost a butterfly effect, if you will. And I had a client that when we would walk the streets of New York, because I don't use an office, everything is outdoors in a safe environment and meeting him or her wherever they're at. And we were in Chelsea in New York City, and we had to cut across the street immediately and didn't look through traffic. And I said, wait, 1 second, what are we doing? And he started to tell me that there's a liquor store and about 40 feet away that he avoids. And I said, so by avoiding the liquor store, you just put yourself in as great a danger by running through the middle of the street. I said, come back. Let's look at what we're looking at right now and take in a 360-degree view, because what we do in addiction is we make that circle 354 degrees is alcohol. That's me. That's made up of me. And I say, no, that's bullshit. What I want to be able to work with the client is show that a very small percentage of who they are is the addiction portion, because then we can fill that with real quality and real self-esteem. So we walked up about 30 feet from the liquor store, and I said, what do you see? And the first thing he saw was a fire hydrant. And I said, what do you use a fire hydrant for? And he goes, well, for a fire. And I said, okay, so there's a fire truck. What else? Well, dogs pee on it. I said, what else? And he couldn't think of anything. I said, well, you know, in the summertime when it gets hot, kids would open up the fire hydrant and spray, and they would actually cool down, and it would be fun. So we started thinking about 3 or 4 things that the fire hydrant was used for. Some practical, some impractical. And yet all of a sudden the focus became the fire hydrant rather than the liquor store. And as we're walking, we walked right by the liquor store. He didn't recognize that until we were 2 blocks later. And he said, we never crossed the street, did we? And I said, well, we almost did. And we almost got hit by a car, but no, we didn't. And he goes, huh. And I said, that's the takeaway right there. And it doesn't have to be Einstein's theory of relativity. It's not, because each little piece that hits home is personal to me. It's personal to Jennifer. It's personal to Rob. There's no judgment. There's no big T for big trauma or little trauma. Everything is a big T to me. And so for him walking by that liquor store, it was traumatic as hell. And he was frightened. And I said, we can deal with the fear, because that's the part, the fear of the change keeps me in the place of drinking. I don't want to change. I know this. This is comfortable. And as people like to say, yes, I'm very adaptable. For a short time, people can be adaptable, which usually means half a day. So that's where I look into that, Rob, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, and that is it's super subtle what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and it's effective, clearly. And also what I hear inside of that is that you are retraining the brain, you know, the neural pathways. And what I hear is you're also giving them a sense of meaning and purpose inside of that. And when we have meaning and purpose, we can begin to have a different experience in our life.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, you know, when I hear people, when we talk about neural pathways and creating new ones, and I said, well, okay, look at it as a path. And there was a skier that I had worked with, and pretty, you know, hot stuff, and made the Olympic team, etc. And I said, if you are going and using the same neural pathways over and over, it becomes what? And he said, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And I said, well, you're a skier. And if you go over the same spot over and over, it becomes a rut. And what do we do in ruts? They get deeper. They get more difficult to come out of. And they get icy on the ski mountain and dangerous. And all of a sudden, I'm going to show you a different neural pathway. And they go, well, I don't know. I don't even know what that means. So we don't use that language.
Right.
And we can show them, you know what? Instead of taking that particular mogul over and over again, which you know is dangerous. And in my personal life, I would be able to walk into a bar for a year and order a club soda. And it was a beautiful restaurant. And I wouldn't drink, and I would walk out and I would beat my chest like a silverback and go, look at me. Until somebody said to me, well, if you're going to walk and dig in, jump into a hole and come out and be proud that you're unscathed, why would you jump in the hole in the first place? And all of a sudden, all that helium was deflated, because it was like bingo. And so, like you said, changing the behavior in subtle ways without being aggressive or demonstrative, where the client gets scared, is the most important part, because I need to know where they are in their environment. That's why, you know, the office bubble doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in that, not in the office. I'm really interested in that. What prompted you to come up with that idea?
You know, I think from my own experience, really, because it was, oh, that was a great 45-minute session, Doc. And 2 days later, it would be, I don't even remember what we talked about. And there was no impetus for me to continue whatever that fantastic conversation was about. And there was no responsibility, and there was no behavioral change or even a shift in thinking. And so it was also a get out of jail free card, because I could say, you know what, I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to talk to Dr. Rob next Tuesday at 9 o'clock at night, when I've already had a few in me.
Yeah.
And I'll be sure to bring this piece of paper with me, which somehow ended up in the recycle bin.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how? Of course, my wife threw it out at the time, not me. I had nothing to do with it. But it really was a moment where I would be in New York City and just observing and thinking that, why would I want to do this inside of, and some people look at it as an interrogation room, you know, in terms of a therapeutic office. And there's a wonderful park right behind the New York City Library, and we'd walk the park for 2 hours. And at first, people would be very uncomfortable that other people would hear the conversation. And I said, you really think that these people care, that they're interested? They're in their own world, just like you and I are. So we could have a conversation about abuse. We could have a conversation about alcohol abuse, sexual abuse, or childhood trauma, and the combination thereof, walking through a park with a merry-go-round 12 feet away. And so for them to have that connection and say, you remember 6 months ago when we had that conversation at the merry-go-round? And I would say, which part of it are you talking about? Because I'm not a mind reader, and neither are the clients. So I appreciate the compliment. You think I have ESP or that kind of connectivity, but I need to hear it from you. And it may not be easy to come out, and I'm not going to pull it out of you, but we'll get to a point where you're comfortable enough to say, you know what, this scares the crap out of me. And this is what I despise about myself. And I say, you know what, that's okay. And for you to be able to say that, to show up and say that is 90% of it. It's the hiding and the, no, I'm a fantastic person.
Yeah.
I drink 4 gallons. No.
And that's what people tend to do when they come to an office. I found one of the reasons we went online is because when I go to an office or see a counselor, I've had a shave, I've showered, you know, I've got my best clothes on, I'm walking there, I'm a little bit nervous to sit down. You're not going to get anything from me for the first 3 months because, you know, I'm putting on this show for you. Unless you're very good, you're not going to get anything out. So the idea of working outside, and especially, and I'm a great believer in working with somebody in their own environment. I think that's very important. It goes back to the language that me and Jennifer talk about all the time is if you go to the house and they all speak Japanese, recovery has its own language. And we take them out of the house and teach them German, then put them back. What's going to happen? One of two things. They're going to start just speaking German again, or the family needs to learn Japanese. And that's why it's important that we have to work with one member of the family as well. I like that. I really do. Is it fun, Stephen? Is it the clients have fun?
You know, I when you were mentioning that, and then I'm thinking of your accent, and I'm like, you know, I recall meeting somebody in the fashion industry, and I said, this is going to be fun because I'm just going to go over the top. And I had a pair of Black Watch slacks, which, you know, the formal plaid, and I had a checkered shirt and then a flowered printed blazer with a bow tie. And I met him at a different park, and he gave me about a 2-minute soliloquy of this is absolutely atrocious, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, look at all of the focus that you put on me. And I said, I did that for a purpose. And now what I want to ask is, what does it matter what I'm wearing? What does it matter what I think? It doesn't. Because the most important part is, what do you think about yourself? And I'm having fun. And you're looking at me like this is something tawdry. And that's okay. I wanted to have fun. But the important part is, what do you care? Where is that protection? And so then after a while, I know it's maybe 5 or 6 sessions later, he said, where do you get your bow ties? And I said, so now you have an interest. And this is all because of the shields that come down, and all of a sudden they allow to be themselves and to be human, to show their foibles and weaknesses. And that's okay, because we all have them. It's just how much energy and focus that I put on. If 10% of me is not a good person and I focus on that, then that becomes 100% of me. So that doesn't make sense mathematically, and emotionally it doesn't make sense, but that is what we're used to doing. You know, I got an A- in school, and my mother and my father would say, but it's not an A. It's not an A+. And therefore, I was a piece of shit. And therefore, eventually, I could soothe that pain and soothe it by drinking. And that's what I want to be able to focus on. And it doesn't matter if my A- was a dream for somebody else. The event caused me trauma that wasn't healed. And that's part of the key too, is healing that trauma. Because your trauma is different from mine. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it worse. It doesn't make it more important. It's like somebody telling me your feelings are wrong. My feelings can't be wrong. And when I hear that with somebody, I said, we could work on that.
Yeah, I really, so a couple things that I'm hearing is like, what would Don Draper have been like had we had Stephen there walking into his office and taking him for a walk right through New York City? Like Don Draper would be even more attractive, because he would have the depth and the openness that we all wished he had in the beginning of the show.
Oh, you just, you know, you might have ESP, you little.
I do. Ask Dr. Rob.
A couple of friends, they said, you know, you're a lot like Don Draper when you were drinking. And I'm like, me? And I never saw the finale, but a good friend of mine, she references it and said, you know what? There was a breakthrough for him at the end. Mm-hmm. And very much. And I stopped watching the show because of his abuse. Not just self-abuse, but the abuse to other people. And I said, I know that guy.
Yeah.
And I know what he's going through. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to watch this show and see the old Stephen. You know, and it took a long time to get past that. So my boundary was, no, I'm turning it off. And yet he was, you know, handsome, beautiful, successful, and he did what he wanted.
Yeah, he did.
I went through those stages, and I went and did unconscionable things to myself and to my environment. But there was always a logical reason when you're, you know, submerged in alcohol. I can get out of any situation. And
it always seems to be the right one as well. Always seems to be the right one, you know, always, no matter what happens.
One of the things that, sorry, Dr. Rob, but one of the things that I notice is what is actually happening underneath this. And it's how Dr. Rob and I work with our clients. It's certainly how I work with my clients, but and patients, but it's that somatic piece. You're taking them for walks. You're getting them in the fresh air. And anytime we begin to move our bodies and then allow ourselves to express, it's just an easier process, is moving our bodies and expressing ourselves. It allows the trauma to come up without it being so affecting our whole being. And so I love that you're bringing that into the corporate world.
Thank you. It's quite fun because, you know, people do talk with their arms and their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're walking down and all of a sudden we're all magical conductors because they're getting emotional, and yet there's a healthy release to that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not bashing somebody. They're not picking up a fifth of some bottle of alcohol, trying to find drugs. It is an expression, you know, it's the diction part of what am I trying to say to Stephen? What am I trying to say to Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
I need to get this out of me because it's been built up for a long time. And my goddamn husband or wife or kid, nobody's listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've changed jobs 7 times in 5 years, and it's all their fault.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Awesome.
And so just part of that fun where I can make people think and have a safe, provocative question. And so I will ask them, I go, you know, do you spell narcissism your own way? And sometimes they won't get it.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Steve, we're coming to the end of the show. I could stay on here all day long. I don't know about you, Jennifer. Very intriguing, very informational. Guys, Dr. Stephen Henriquez, theparallaxsolution.com is at the bottom of the screen. Well worth a visit to the website. Stephen, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you both.
On with us today. And it's been fun and educational and just mind-blowing for me. I love the outside thing. I just love it, absolutely. So thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Always great to see you.
Cheers.
Bye, Stephen.
Bye-bye, Jennifer.
We'll be right back, guys, after this. Wow.
That was fun.
That was awesome. I can't believe this. The stuff outside was just mind blowing. I mean, just mind blowing.
Well,
wow. Wow.
I know. And I've been talking to you about, creating something out and outdoors, some kind of retreat for the patients. And I think it's powerful when we can get people, when we can get people outside, we can get them out of their environment. I think it makes everything change and different.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thinking outside the box, bringing new solutions. The counseling today has been used for about the last 40 or 50 years. It isn't working. Yep. Let's think outside the box, and that's what Stephen does. And I just love every bit of him. Is unbelievable. And after that conversation there, wow, I don't know, unbelievable. I think one of the best guests so far. No disrespect to the other guests we've had on, guys, but that was just on a one-to-one. He was hitting some points there that I just thought intrigues me completely. And no wonder he's one of the best in the industry when he's taking it that step further. Unbelievable. Jen,
yeah, I'm definitely going to, when I come down to see you in J Bear, I'm going to bring hula hoops.
Yes. Going to walk in the park. Yeah, definitely. The only bad thing about Stephen, if there is a bad thing, is he's not English. That's the only bad thing about Stephen. If he was English, he would be perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah. Guys, don't forget
one of your accents here.
I know. Elocution lessons are on the way, Stephen, if you're still listening. How is a banana in the tree a banana? The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. Awesome. Goes back to my Oxford days. Guys, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, we'll be with you guys. Breaking Through Addiction. Don't forget, it's brought to you by Speaking to the Heart Network, STTH Media, and Phoenix Radio, guys. We'll be back next week. What a fantastic show this week. But don't forget, guys, have an amazing week. And remember, you are worth it and you can do anything you want. So from me, it's bye-bye.
From me, it's bye-bye. Have an amazing week.
Bye, guys. Take care.